What's going on, YouTube? My name is Venator, and in today's Deinosuchus guide video, I'm going to be taking you guys through everything I think you need to know to have success traveling around the map as a Deinosuchus. But that's not all we're going to cover. I'm also going to be showing you guys and breaking down each of the 4 spawn areas and how to get out of these spawn areas, tips and tricks and things you can do, paths you can take, and most importantly, how to hit the sanctuary from each of the different spawns. Now, starting out here in water access, the closest sanctuary is Verdant Pond, and that's the first one that I'm going to be taking you guys through and how to get to. Now, as we make our way to the running point, I wanted to talk about a few little things, and then we'll really get into the meat of this guide. You guys might notice that not every single walk to every single spot is in this guide. In this guide, I'm going to be hitting on all the different traveling routes that I personally use and think are the most important. Now, if there's something not in here that you guys would really like to see on how to get somewhere, let me know down below in the comments. If I see something that gets a lot of likes and is a place that I just missed, you know, I'm human, I make mistakes too, then I will definitely make another guide to include it. But I feel pretty confident that in this guide, everything that you need to know on getting from point A to point B and hitting all the important spots are in this guide. This hopefully should be your one stop for all of your traveling needs. So if you guys find this video helpful and you enjoy it, please drop me a like or comment below. It really helps me out. But without further ado, we're going to get right into this guide, starting with the run from water access to Verdant Pond. Now this run is relatively straightforward. Once you leave water access out of the only waterfall in the lake to go over, you're going to come just a little bit downriver to the spot I show on the map. And then, well, it's a pretty easy run. You're just going to run essentially straight northeast from the lake. So, as you can see on the map, it's a fairly straight line, but a good landmark to keep an eye out for is the road. But in the meantime, on the run there, I'm going to break down the water access spawn. So when you spawn in water access, you have a few options. You can either A, immediately leave and try and make the run to Verdant Pond like I'm doing here, or you can B, go down to the ocean. It's a short run that I've featured and will feature in this video, and you can get the saltwater mutation and then run back. But you have to do it while you're small. If you wait until you're larger, it will probably take 2 trips. And as a fresh spawn, it still might take 2 trips, but it's best to do it when you have just spawned in. And your third option is, well, you can leave the lake, go down to Delta, and try and make your way all the way down to swamps and hit the sanctuary there. Now, why would you want to make this run? Well, if you don't want to make the trip down to Delta, sometimes it's easier to make this run to Verdant Pond, hit the sanctuary, and come back. Because if you die, well, you haven't lost much. You're still in your first 30 minutes, and you're a fresh spawn. You haven't committed a lot of time to this gator yet, and that gives you freedom to play a little bit riskier at the start. And if you don't want to leave the lake area, then this is the sanctuary you got to hit. And that leads me to the 4th way of playing at water access, and that's staying there. Staying and growing in water access for as long as you can. Well, and then I guess I left out, you can also go to Highlands, but like you guys know, don't go to Highlands until you're not grabbable. If you go to Highlands, especially if you don't have a friend already there, you're just going to be met with disappointment and death. But you can stay in water access and grow, although I've had pretty poor luck with fishing there lately. Now, as you can see, I didn't take the optimal path here. I went a little further north than I should have, and so I had to slide down that hill. But hey, either way, we made it to Verdant Pond. And so now I'm going to show you guys how to hit the sanctuary. So once your stamina is filled back up, you're going to want to exit the pond at this little cave over here and follow the path that I show in the video. But while we're making this run, I'm going to continue talking about the water access spawn. My personal strategy, and I'm going to talk more about this in my next growing guide, but my personal strategy for growing a Deinosuchus is to just stay fluid. If you spawn in water access and there's food there, by no means, you don't have to leave. But say if you spawn in there and there's 2 bigger crocs nesting, well, you're probably going to want to leave. Now, where you go is completely up to you. You can go to Verdant Pond and do this and go back. You can go to Verdant Pond, do this, and stay there and try and hunt and grow. There's plenty of fresh spawns and Troodons that go and drink at the pond. I've been killed there as a Troodon, so I know it's possible. But it's a pond that a Rex can walk through and kill you at any time, so not my favorite growing spot. Either way, it's useful to know how to get to this pond and hit the sanctuary. But if this isn't your style, I would recommend trying to scratch off a living in the river between water access and Delta. There you can grow in relative safety, you know, if you play it right and just keep an eye underwater. Or you can do what I do most of the time, and that's try and find a schooling fish and then beeline my way all the way down to swamps, which we'll talk about why swamps is my favorite once we get to the swamp section. Anyway, once you go back into this cave on the run, you got to go around the right-hand side and follow the curve up and around where I dropped down on my way into the sanctuary. And then, as you can see, you can do pretty much all of this in one stamina bar. So, pretty straightforward. Your biggest risk, obviously, doing this will be anything in the sanctuary that sees you, because if you get spotted, well, you're probably dead. But that is the run from water access to Verdant Pond and the closest sanctuary to hit from said water access spawn. So it's time to move on. Next, we're going to talk about the North Lake spawn and how you exit this area and hit the closest sanctuary. Now, I will be completely honest with you guys. This is probably my least favorite spawn currently at this time. If you go back and watch some of my older guide videos or my very old how to grow video that was still subtitles, North Lake used to be kind of my favorite spawn. It had consistent fish spawns, was more cut off from the rest of the map than it is right now, so it made for a pretty good growing area. It just didn't do great once you got big because of the lack of large prey that drinks at the lake. And that still holds true today. It's just now, with the addition of the Prime system, spawning close to a sanctuary is probably my most desired thing when I'm spawning in. So that's why I'm going to talk about East Lake and swamps last, because they're my 2 favorite spawns. Water access is okay because it's easy to get out of, and you can hit Verdant Pond if you want, but I don't mind water access. Some people hate water access and love North Lake. You know, it's all just personal preference, really. And that's what this guide video is for, is to show you guys the pros and cons, or at least what I believe are the pros and cons of each area, and how to travel around in between them. You know, especially with this most recent update and the addition of all the mangroves, it seems now that traveling as a Deinosuchus has never been so important. You know, if you go watch a lot of my early videos and guides, I was a pretty adamant non-saltwater croc. To me, I thought it was a waste of a slot because at that time, you could easily walk between places and on land and not really have to worry about much. The only thing when I first started that you had to worry about on the land was a stego. Now, you've got trike, you've got rex, I mean heck, a group of 3 big aloes can pin you as a very large Deinosuchus. There's a lot more to worry about making land travel that much more dangerous. So that's kind of why I decided to set out and make this guide. This way, it'll update everything in hopefully one video. But anyway, back to North Lake. As you can see, it's a pretty straightforward swim, and I will have all of these sped up, so it's not going to be just hours of watching me swim, but I'm going to still show you guys the entire journey like I do with all my older guide videos. Now, North Lake is pretty straightforward. You got one way in, one way out. And I choose to head out immediately, every single time I spawn there. And that's for a couple reasons. One, I'm not someone that's going to want to stay and grow in North Lake. I've tried it. I've just never been that successful at it. Now, if you spawn in, like I said earlier, and it's a great food situation and there's no other big crocs, then, you know, by any means, play it how you please. I just personally, I'm going to try and make my way down this river as fast as possible. And as a fresh spawn, it's pretty straightforward because you can just go down every waterfall. Now, once you get to a larger size, you'll obviously want to walk down and around the bigger one. And we'll touch on that more when we get there. But as a whole for North Lake, the closest sanctuary you can hit is technically, I believe, the North Jungle Sanctuary, and you can make the run from North Lake to Verdant Pond. Now, I'm not showing you guys that in this video because I think that's a very dangerous run, and you're more than likely going to die if you try and do it, because when I did it, I used my stamina about perfectly and still got there on red water and moderate health, but as soon as I got there, there was a bigger croc and he munched me and I was dead. I think making your way all the way down to Hollow Falls and then over to East Lake Sanctuary is probably the best way to do it if you're determined to hit Sanctuary early on in your life. But as you can see on that first big waterfall, I just kind of sent it. Didn't really have to worry about it. Now, the bigger you are, the more careful you want to be, obviously. And once you get to the really big waterfall, the premise, well, it's essentially the same. If you're really big, you're going to want to walk around it, and if you're small, you can go right off of it. I've gone off of this waterfall multiple different ways, different spots, and for whatever reason, I can't pin down the one spot I went one time where I took no damage. It's pretty tricky to get down there and not take any damage, but at worst, it has put me on yellow-orange health with a broken leg, and you can heal that up pretty easily. But in my opinion, this is the best way to go down. Once you get past that little barrier, you can see the edges that you can fall down. And now you can just go straight off and not even bother with this. But I like to make my way down this little cliff as far as I can before I just auto fall down it. That way it just gives me that much better of a chance of surviving. And see, if you slide like that, for whatever reason, you just don't take too much damage, even though you do hit the ground pretty close to where you slide down. Now, I don't know if that's going to change, if they tweak the slide mechanics or, you know, anything that can come up in the future. But for now, very easy to get down there. And then, once you've made your way down here into the Hollow Falls River, you're going to just keep heading downriver until you get to the falls. And once you get to the waterfalls, you've got essentially two options. Exit Hollow Falls down into Delta, or you take a left at this junction and make the run over to the East Lake Sanctuary. But for the guide purposes, I'm going to show you the path where we walk down first. So like I said, once you get to this Y in the river, where you can go left or you have to go right. To exit Hollow Falls, you're just going to go down the right-hand side and use the cliff face path down through the pools that lead all the way down to Delta, like I've done in several videos in the past. Now, for this guide purposes, I'm going to get you to the path because they've kind of covered it up. See these trees and bushes? That's the path. You want to go straight through it like I do here, and this will lead you down to the cliff. Now, if you go left at that Y and follow it all the way around to the other side, you'll eventually come to a dead end where you can go no more to the east. And like I show on the map right here, this is where you want to start to make the run over to the East Lake Sanctuary. It's pretty straightforward. It's almost a straight line, and as a fresh spawn, you'll have the stamina and sprint speed to make it there in no time. And as we make this run over here, I'm going to just kind of wrap up some final thoughts on the North Lake spawn. And like water access, you're pretty limited to your options. You can either stay in the lake and hope that there's food or fish, but I haven't had the best of luck this update with that. Or you can go try and grow in the river. I've had better luck with that. Seems like the fish and elite fish are working in the rivers more so than the lakes. So once you get in there, the river, it's a good spot. But I'm going to leave that area nearly 10 out of 10 times, head over to Hollow Falls, and make this run over to East Lake like I'm doing here. Like you guys have heard me talk about a lot, I really like the East Lake growing spot now. And thankfully, it seems like with this most recent update, not the big update, but this, I guess if you want to call it a hot fix, they didn't really release any of the patch notes with it. But in my experience in East Lake, and you guys will see it in some future Dino videos, it seems the fish are working better now than they had been. Before this little hot fix, I really wasn't seeing a ton of schooling fish or elite fish in the lake, but seems like that's fixed now. So be interesting to see how North Lake and water access, if their fish spawns are any better. And then, as always, if you get a North Lake spawn and kind of like me and you don't really like the area, an option is always to just beeline it down to swamps as fast as you can. Now, you will definitely need a schooling fish to make that journey without starving, or hope that you find something to scavenge along the way. But you always got to be careful when you're around the Hollow Falls area. It's a very popular nesting spot, so just take care. But as you can see, you reach the sanctuary pretty quick. I mean, I got here in basically an entire stamina bar. And now, while I didn't get stung by the bees there, this just for the video purpose is showing the path. You got to go a little further in, but that's the quickest way to do it. And then there's East Lake. So once you hit that sanctuary, you just got to make your way down to the lake. And I was just short on stamina, so we're going to move on to leaving East Lake. But as you can see, it's right there, and that's the path. And so for the next spawn that we're going to talk about, as we just arrived here, is East Lake. East Lake's pretty straightforward to get out of. You just go over to this very large rock, and then it's a straight shot over to Hollow Falls like we just did coming from Hollow Falls. I'm not going to show you guys hitting the sanctuary, as you can tell from the last clip, it's right next to the lake. Very straightforward, run in and out, get stung by the bees, back to the lake, and then you can stay and grow in East Lake for as long as you like, or you can leave as early as you like. I like to grow there a little bit. If I kind of commit to one of two things. I'm either going to leave East Lake right away, or I'm going to commit to the grow there. Now, obviously, like I said at the beginning, you want to stay fluid. So if another croc logs in, it's bigger, then yeah, you might have to abandon ship and make the walk or run over at any point. It's also possible to get saltwater at East Lake, albeit a little bit more difficult and takes probably a couple tries of running back and forth to get your water drained. And I don't know, just a little risky for my taste, but hey, like I said, it's all personal preference. I'm just here to show you guys the way. And as far as the runs go, I will say if you're going between Hollow Falls and East Lake, I recommend to do it during lower pop hours and or night or a thunderstorm. This is a little bit more of a trafficked area, so I wouldn't risk it if you're big. If you're small, you're small enough, probably won't be seen, and you're quick enough that you can hide in the bushes and you don't make a lot of noise. So, like I said, completely up to you and how you want to approach your travel. And finally, the last spawn we are going to talk about is swamps. Swamps is probably my favorite spawn, and for a few reasons. The first is that in my opinion, it's the best place for growing dinos, especially early in your life, because it's easier to hide and escape from bigger ones, thanks to all the shallow spots. Secondly, there are multiple places that you can go ahead and do the saltwater requirements. I've circled a couple of them on the map shown here. And then finally, this area gives you the most dynamic start. And what I mean by that is that there's often food around in the swamps that you can find right off the bat. So you can let your hunger drop and fill it up without having to take hunger drain right away. Now, if I spawn in and don't find anything, then yeah, I'll still probably take it pretty quick. But for the most part, I don't have a too difficult time finding food in swamps on petites. And another really important point is that it's not difficult to exit swamps. You've got a lot of different options. So what I'm showing you right here is the walk from, I guess we'll call it East Swamp, over to what used to be West Swamp and has now been replaced with mangroves. From there, there's a very easy spot that you can also get saltwater, but they've kind of expanded the area, and as you guys are going to see in one of my future Dino videos, it's turned into quite the nice spot to grow. So that's why I'm showing you guys this on how to get across and over to the new mangrove area. And then finally, the sanctuary in swamps, which I'm not showing you because there's so many different spawns in swamps. There's no one way to get there. It's in the center of swamps on here, like I've shown you on the map, and it's the easiest sanctuary to hit. There is a sliver of it that is actually in the water in a certain spot. You don't even have to leave the water. But like normal, I always exit, get stung by the bees just to make sure. And as for this walk itself, it's pretty straightforward. I kind of get a little off my path here because this was actually my first time doing it. And as you can see, I'm doing this live as I'm in the process of growing a Deinosuchus. So not just optimal spawn in and run and do the walk conditions like I have on some of them, but there is an easier way you can get to the little pool that's in the middle of swamps right next to the sanctuary, if you know what I'm talking about, and then start this trip from there. But if not, you can easily start it where I did, and it's essentially just a straight run west across to the swamps. And I'll show it on the map where I kind of think the best place to exit and enter is, but like other ones, this area is a little bit more populated. There tends to be good amount of growing herbivores and carnivores in this area. So if you're small, you're going to want to use your stamina wisely and then take cover in bushes and get it back. Kind of like you see how I do in this video. I've sped this one up because I had to sit and get my stamina back a little bit longer than I expected. Because as you can see, I'm not really a fresh spawn right here. So sprinting really eats at my stamina, and I, truth be told, thought I would get there quicker, so I wasn't really using my stamina wisely. If I were to go back and do this again, I would definitely be a little bit more careful, but I wasn't in a hurry and I wanted to do this the right way, so I did more sprinting and stopping than I typically would if I'm trying to get somewhere. But as you can see, that water right there is where the area begins. So we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next section of this, where after you're in the mangrove area, I'm going to show you guys where I get the saltwater mutation in this newly added mangroves location. So once you get to this spot shown on the map above, this is where you can just make a little walk over to the new geyser area that leads into South Plains and the Mudflats area. So as you can see, a little bit bigger. I spent quite a bit of time growing before going over to do this. It's really personal preference. You can get this saltwater mutation knocked out at any point. You could do it when you spawn. You can wait, make your way over here and do it in the mangroves, or you can play it risky and go try and knock it out in the estuary area where you're going to see me start the next trip. But I just wanted to show you guys this little spot. As you can see, it's a very short walk over to the ocean area where you can drain that fresh water. And then if you get really big, it's just a short walk to fill your fresh water back up if you don't get it done the first try. And so now that we've covered all 4 spawns and how to hit the sanctuaries and how to exit the spawns and kind of my tips and tricks and strategies, I'm going to take you guys through all the important travel routes that I think you guys need to know. Starting off with the swim from estuary all the way over to the new mangrove area that we just saw that leads into South Plains and Mudflats. So the first thing you're going to want to do is get that saltwater mutation. As you can see, I'm getting it right here outside of estuary. This is probably the most dangerous spot to get it. but it's also the most convenient. So, dealer's choice on how you guys want to try and get that saltwater requirement knocked out. But once you have the mutation, this is the swim around swamps. And like I said earlier, this will be sped up, so should be pretty quick, but we will be right back. And as you can see from the elite fish, it is always a good idea to bring a snack with you. My hunger's not super low, but if you're in a growing stage, kind of like I am here, your hunger can drop pretty quick. But we will be back in a few minutes. Alrighty. So once you've made that swim all the way around swamps and you're entering this new geyser area, you're going to want to make your way to the left side of the cliffs that you can see up there by the dome. So right there directly ahead of me, you want to follow this path kind of to the left, and then you'll come to the mouth of this river. And this is where the new area or new river that I've shown you guys in some of my past videos, this is where it starts. So you're going to make your way down this. This will lead you to where you can walk up to South Plains River, or you can continue on to Mudflats. And then, like I said, once you make your way down this river, you'll get to South Plains. You'll see the big waterfall like normal, and the same path that's been there since I started playing is still there. You can just walk up the left side of this waterfall. And now I will admit it looks a little bit different. So at first glance, it looks like you might not be able to walk up it, but I promise you can. Just follow what I'm doing right here. This will lead you up to South Plains River. But be advised, it is kind of a hot spot area now. So I definitely recommend don't coming up here and testing your luck until you're at least to the non-grappable size. Now, you can always risk it. You know, if you got a buddy and you're both 8 tons, then in theory, only one of you can get grabbed if there's one big guy. But if there's 2, it's just always a risk that you have to weigh yourself. Anyway, from there, you can take the same path back down and then continue following the river over to Mudflats. You swim under the little land bridge and then just kind of follow the path I'm taking right here. And I'm going to show you guys the walk to West Rail Pond. It's essentially the same walk as it has been, but it just looks a little different because of the mangrove area. So I wanted to kind of show you guys part of the swim up to where you make the walk. And once your stamina's full and you've made it to this little spot shown on the map, this is where you're going to start the walk. And like I said, it's basically the same as it used to be, albeit a little bit more, I wouldn't say dangerous, but this area is highly trafficked. I mean, West Rail's not quite as open as it used to be, but with the new mangroves, a lot of things like to come through this area. But either way, just follow the path here. I recommend doing this during low population times or at night, as to not get caught by any tyrannosaurs or triceratops. I see quite a few of them in this area. West Rail is a hot spot. So, and like South Plains River, West Rail Pond is also a hot spot for Deinosuchus. So definitely don't recommend doing this until you're over 10.5 tons. And there you have it, the walk to West Rail Pond. Now, I'm going to show you guys how to walk from West Rail back down to South Plains River. This could be useful if, say for example, you get nested in West Rail and don't draw the saltwater mutation. Knowing how to walk, in my opinion, from point A to point B, land only, is a very important skill to being a successful Deinosuchus, and something I don't see a lot of people talk about or really mention in videos or on streams, I guess. You know, everybody's dead set in the way of the ocean and saltwater, and I get that. You know, it's easy and it's probably safer, but if you're someone like me, I tend to like to get from point A to point B as fast as possible. And oftentimes, walking across land is the faster version. As you can see right here, I'm not that big, and we're going to make this walk. It's during low population times. I should have probably waited to do this at night, but my hunger was in a bad spot, and sometimes you just got to send it. So, as you can see on the map above, this is another pretty straightforward walk. I mean, you just got to really do a straight line from the pond to where the ramps lead down to the river, as you guys will see here in a few minutes. And as you can see, you get here on red water with taking a little bit of damage, but it's by no means not doable. And I kind of made this walk at probably close to the slowest you can be. You might not want to try that walk if you're in the 2 to 5 ton range. And you can see right here, 6 tons. I made it easy peasy. Now, I'm going to show you guys just a little bonus tip on how to get down the South Plains River from the upper river to the lower river. A lot of people don't know that you can just easily walk down the waterfall. So once you make your way to the waterfall at upper river that connects to lower river, you're going to go to the right hand side, and it's a pretty straightforward little walk. If it's your first time doing this, just easily, slowly make your way down the rocks. I tend to zoom in and try and make sure I'm landing on the ledges I want, but here, I've done it so many times I kind of rushed a little bit, but there is some little gaps you can fall in like you saw right there, but as long as you hug this right side, take it slow, and don't miss a ledge, like right there is the biggest miss I see a lot of people do, and they get hit with some damage. But if you take it slow and just fall from ledge to ledge, you make it down just like that. And then for the next trip, as you can see, I exited South Plains River, made my way all the way down and through Mudflats, and I'm going to show you guys the swim from Mudflats to water access. Now, this is a journey that I would not do unless you're a very large Deinosuchus that's well into the prime. That way, you don't suffer too much from hunger drain. As a full prime on full food, it drops you from, I'd say, probably about 100 to 80%. So if you were to try this at, say, 7 tons, it would take a lot longer and your hunger would drop a lot faster. But this is by far the quickest way, in my opinion, to go from the west side of the map back around to the water access delta area rather than having to swim all the way back around swamps and go up delta. I like to do this if I've been in the west side of the map for a long time and I'm itching to make that trip to Highland Lakes for maybe some PvP or just a change of scenery. But anyway, this is a pretty long swim, so like some of the others, this one will be sped up. The main thing here is just I use my full bar of stamina, and then I hit Windows G, and you can just auto swim. So for those of you that don't know that little trick, you just hit Windows G while holding W, and then you can let go of W and hit escape. Your Deinosuchus will just keep swimming forward. So if you need to step away and go grab a drink or hit the bathroom, by the time you get back, your stamina should be completely regenerated. But anyway, we'll be back in a few minutes once we approach water access. And even though it was sped up, I will say the swim at first seems a little daunting, but after doing it my first time, it it really wasn't that bad. And now I've made this journey multiple times while playing on my full prime Deinosuchus. But anyway, as you approach the dam and water access, you will see this new compound that they have added, and you're going to make your way up to the beach, and this is where you will make the walk from the ocean up and over to water access. Now, if you guys remember from the start of the video, I said if you spawn in water access, you can make the run down to the ocean to drain your salt. And this is the spot I'm talking about. So if you want to get salt water, just do the opposite of this walk. Now, as a fresh spawn, you could probably kind of go down the cliffs right there to my right, but to get back up, you're going to have to take this path. So this is the walk from the ocean back up to water access lake. And as you can see, it's a pretty straightforward walk. You just follow the guide video, and honestly, I mean, you can just find a lot of your paths like this just using a map. But this is going to lead us right into the next trip. This might be one of the most important and most requested trips, and that is the walk from water access to Highland Lake. Overall, this path hasn't really changed in the sense that you still go up and leave water access in the same spot. It now just looks completely different. And for the better, I might add. The redwood forest adds a lot more cover. If you don't stay on the road and you stay in the trees, it's pretty hard to get spotted. Most of the time as a Deinosuchus, you'll be able to see stuff or hear things coming before they see you, and you can just freeze. Like I say, IO player's vision is almost entirely movement based. So if you just stop in your tracks, a lot of things will just pass on by. And see, just like normal, it really hasn't changed that much. I get here just shy of hitting red water, so you can make this walk pretty much any time. And for my next trip, I'm going to show you guys the walk from Highland Lake to Top Pond. And now, this one really hasn't changed that much either. It's actually gotten a little bit better because, like I said earlier, the redwoods do give you quite a bit more cover. But I will say, the walk from Highland Lake to Top Pond is definitely more dangerous. A lot of rexes and trikes, big herbivores, carnivores frequent this area around the sanctuary, so definitely recommend making this walk at night, or even better, at night and during a thunderstorm like I'm doing right here. Overall though, the path is largely the same as you can see on the map above, but one important thing to remember is you will want to conserve and manage your stamina in the most efficient way possible, which is sprinting down to or around 60% and then letting it fill back up. That way you can continue walking and recharge your stamina. Rinse and repeat that process until you reach Top Pond. And as you can see, you reach Top Pond just having hit red water and taken a little bit of damage. But the great thing about this place is you don't have to walk around the bridge anymore. You can walk up the backside to make the little walk down to South Plains River if you don't want to stay here. So it's a great little stopping point between the Highlands area and South Plains area. And I will say it is a more frequented spot now. I apologize. My videos do tend to give away some nice little honey holes and secret spots, but I'm a big believer in giving the Deinosuchus knowledge to the people. Gatekeeping is a very big problem with the Isle, and I've even ran into people that deliberately tell new players wrong information just to gatekeep either spots or techniques or strategies that they like. I'm not a fan of that. It's one of the reasons I started this channel. So if I ruin your favorite spot, I do apologize, but I just want new players and new Deinosuchus players. You know, maybe you're a veteran of the game and have played this for 1,000 hours, but have never cared to try Croc. You know, that's what these guides are for. And so I hope all of you, if you've made it this far, I hope these really help. And then to make the walk from South Plains up to Top Pond, you just do the reverse of what I just did. I get a lot of questions on how to get to Top Pond. And there's two ways to get there. Either you walk from Highland Lake and do the walk I just did, or you go from South Plains River and do the reverse of the path you just saw. But anyway, moving on to probably the longest journey in this guide, and that's going to be the swim from Estuary all the way up to port. So this is probably, like I said, the longest trip that I think you can make in the game if you're just trying to get from point A to point B. I mean, you can swim around the entire map if you want. Obviously, that will be longer, but I have never been to port at this point as a Deinosuchus, and I was growing and had made a friend, and we had full bellies, so I figured might as well go up and check it out. And so once you've made it back here to this area, there is one more thing I wanted to show you guys while we're in port. If you go back down the channel that we just came, you can hang a left and go through this little pipe right here, and it will take you to another channel. Now, you can't hunt in the channel, but the reason this is important is because it's a little bit faster than going through all of those other sewer pipes that you saw me. As you can tell, it's a little confusing to get through. I know it was sped up, but I had to stop and keep checking my map and make sure that I hadn't been turned around. But if you get out to this area right here, this hill to my right, you can walk up that hill and down back to the ocean. So just a little tip, if you come from the ocean, it's probably quicker to walk up the hill and over into this little channel, as you can see from the ocean right there. Now, granted, I haven't personally tested if you can get around those barricades, but I imagine it's not too difficult to do. And as for our final journey, this will be the walk from port to East Lake. If you don't want to take the ocean route all the way back down and around, this is the easiest way to do it. And as you can see, I'm doing it right now because a much larger Deinosuchus was coming for me. So you're going to see I kind of do a little jog off to the right, but essentially, as you can see on the map shown here, it's a very straightforward walk. Just a few little tips that you got to remember. You want to stick to the fence. I'll show you guys, or I'll point it out once we get there. But once you get to the kind of the broken fence area, that's where you're going to want to kind of hug, and it'll lead you to the gap in the fence. And as you can see down there in that road, it might be tempting to take that path, but I highly recommend taking the slightly longer way and going left up this little hill. And then that's the fence right there on my left that I was talking about. So you just follow this and it will lead you to the hole in the fence, or the broken gate. I can't remember what it's called on the map. And that's where you will make your way straight down to East Lake. And there you guys have it. We have reached East Lake and just are going to hit red water as we enter the lake. And that's really only because we had to run from a larger Deinosuchus. But anyways, that's going to pretty much conclude this guide video. I know we didn't hit every single little spot. Didn't really show you guys how to get to Coastal Pond or maybe Jungle Pond. But in my opinion, they're not really worth going to anymore, as a Rex can kind of walk in there and mess you up. And Coastal Pond could be worth it. I'll have a little subtitle and map update when I pass that spot on the swim to port. But anyway, that pretty much wraps it up. So thank you guys for watching. We'll see you all next time, and happy hunting.